Manx Radio Sport.
Welcome. After a couple of months of wait, we are back with Saturday Sport Classified on Manx Radio's crystal clear DAB and on AM 1368. It is the start of the Manx football season and rugby season, and we'll be bringing you all the scores and reaction to the games that have been taking place across a sunny Isle of Man today. But first and foremost, we will now bring you the classified results for Saturday, the 2nd of September. They are as follows. The Canada Life Men's Premier League. Union Mills 2, Ramsey 3. St John's United 0, St Mary's 6. Russian United 1, Corinthians 6. Peel 4, St George's 0. Douglas Royal 2, Braddon 3. Morown 0, Laxey 7. In DPS Limited Division 2. Douglas and District vs Maloo awaiting result. Foxdale 3, Michael United 1. Ramsey Youth Centre and Old Boys 1, Colby 2. Douglas High School Old Boys 2, Castletown 4. Pulrose 2, Onken 8. In Canada Life Combination 1. Ramsey 2, Union Mills 4. St Mary's 2, St John's United 1. Corinthians 0, Russian United 2. Braddon 4, Douglas Royal 0. Laxey 9, Morown 0. And in DPS Limited Combination 2. Maloo vs Douglas and District awaiting result. Michael United 9, Foxdale 0. Colby 3, Ramsey Youth Centre and Old Boys 6. Douglas Athletic vs Gyms awaiting result. And Castletown vs Douglas High School Old Boys awaiting result. And in the North West Counties Football League Premier Division, Wythenshawe Town 0, FC Isle of Man 0. And now in rugby, the North West 2 Division, Douglas 6, Furwood Waterloo 8. And in the Cheshire Bowl, Duckenfield 45, Vagabonds 0. Those are your classified results for Saturday, the 2nd of September 2023, as we have them so far. As you just heard there, we are awaiting a couple of results, so if you hear those of any outstanding and you have information, please do let us know on 166 177. Feel free to text in. We'd love to get those details to you. Well, for the first time this season, he's here. He's been waiting so patiently throughout the summer to just be chomping at the bit to get back at this. There he is, he's smiling at me. He's been out at St John's earlier today, so we'll get his thoughts on all the fixtures that have come in so far. Tony Mepham, great to have you back.
Good to be back here, Rob, and what great weather conditions as well, wasn't it? Because certainly a couple of weeks we've had a bit of rain here and there, but today brilliant sunshine and an awful lot of goal scorers.
Indeed there are, and some real standout results throughout the day, so we'll dive straight into them. Anyway, we'll start with the Canada Life Men's Premier League and we'll filter through those. We'll start over at Gary Moore, Union Mills versus Ramsey, two sides that finished in a similar place in the table last season, were very good in spells, particularly Union Mills with their start of the season, but just couldn't quite find the consistency to challenge toward the top. And today's game, an equally close one here, and Ramsey just about getting the edge here. Union Mills 2, Ramsey 3. Yeah,
I think it was Ramsey's winning goal towards the end of the game. I think it was something like 96th minute, something like that. But it was Dylan Pickles got one. Harry Blissett got 2 goals. Not too sure who got the 2 goals for Union Mills. But if you can text us through, please, 166 177. But a great start to the new season by Ramsey, winning 3-2 and getting those 3 points.
We've just had another result come through. Thank you very much for messaging in, and that is over in... Make sure I've got my papers right here. DBS Limited Combination 2, it finished Douglas Athletic 7, Gyms 1. So thank you very much for letting us know that. We'll get to that shortly. Let's go back to the Canada Life Men's Premier League then, and this was an intriguing tie, Tony. You were at today over at Mulliner Chloe as well. St John's United promoted the season before last into the Premier League and made a good impression at points last season, coming up against the newly promoted Division 2 champions from the last campaign, St Mary's here. And we all wondered how the newly promoted sides would fare in the opening week and whether it would be a benchmark. And my word, of St Mary's set out a bit of a statement here today, because they've beaten St John's United on their patch by 6-0.
Yeah, and they fared very well. They played some good football, St Mary's, at times, and it was, two players just ripping them apart in the first half. Joe Berquist down that right-hand side causing all sorts of problems. Adam Adibai, I remember him as a defender, playing, but certainly today he showed that he's a centre forward. He's definitely a 9 because he was busy. He got one. James Murphy it was who got the first one. Joe Berquist sent the ball over, and there he was to head the ball in. He's not the tallest of players, but he still finished it off well, and the keeper stood no chance. But then Adam Adibai got one from the penalty spot. Definitely a pen for me. Cooley slotted it past the keeper. But then in the second half, Adam Adibai and Joe Berquist just ran the show. Looked really good. But I think the turning point as well was Nathan Halsall coming off the bench, because Nathan's a talented footballer. But whether he can't train or whatever, but he started on the bench today. But 2 goals for Berquist in the second half, and another 2 for Adam Adibai. Just comfortable result in the end, 6-0. St John's had maybe a couple of chances towards the end, but nothing really to talk about. They'll be disappointed with that performance, and they'll be just hoping that the players like Callum Taggart, also maybe Dean Leese if he's not playing for FC Alaman, could come back in there just to give them an opportunity to score goals up front. But today they really struggled to create chances.
Just noticing as well from the scorers from St Mary's, one glaring name seems to be absent from the score sheet, and that is last season's silver boot winner, Owen Canepa.
Yeah, Owen didn't play today. I don't know why, if he's injured or whatever, or hasn't trained, because that's one thing about St Mary's. Strict they are about the training. No show, no play. But I'm pretty certain when Owen's back in there as well, when you've got Adam, Joe and Owen running at you, that's a formidable front line. And St Mary's are going to do well, definitely, with that team and attitude today.
And just coming back to St John's briefly, you've mentioned a couple of the players they didn't have available. Dean Leese, part of the FC Alaman setup, particularly over the last few weeks, and Callum Taggart as well. Where does, I suppose, St John's boost come from if the likes of both Taggart and Leese aren't available? Where do they find that extra spring in their step? Because it appears a case of, credit to St Mary's, of course, for getting an emphatic victory, but St John's maybe just lacking a bit of firepower?
Yeah, there was nothing really up front, and you wouldn't blame them, because St Mary's dealt with anything that was thrown at them as well. And when they pushed Sam Ingham up late on in the second half, that's when actually St John's started to create some chances. But goalkeeper didn't have a lot of protection, and 1 or 2 sort of injured players. And it was just one of those days. St Mary's were good, St John's were poor. Draw a line across it, St John's, and move on and train hard in the week and see what next week brings.
Very well, let's move out to the south of the island then, and 2 teams that in recent years have been up towards the top of the pile, but a challenging last couple of seasons has meant they've maybe just dropped a little bit back, particularly off the pace of Peel, who won the Premier League last season. Russian United were at home to Corinthians today, with both sides looking to get off to the best possible start. These 2 teams that have become firm rivals in the Premier League over the last couple of years, and after a rather close encounter for much of the game, there did seem to be a definitive turning point in the way of the visitors, because they've won by a pretty dominant scoreline in the end. Russian United 1, Corinthians 6, Tony.
Yeah, and it was a really good performance in the second half, and I think it didn't help. Russian went down to 10. I think it was halfway through that second period, but it was Aaron Hawley got a goal for Russian from the penalty spot, and then new signing for Corinthians. Impressive display by him. He got a hat-trick. Josh Kane. Phil Kelly scored one from the penalty spot. Joe Marquez got himself on the score sheet as well. Chester Bell, we're going to hear a lot about that young man during the season, because he's only 16 years of age. Terrific young player, terrific performance by Corinthians. Finished up Russian 1, Corinthians 6.
Chester Bell, of course, man of the match in the recent Eric Fletcher Charity Shield game as well. Someone I know you've mentioned on a couple of occasions. But you've also mentioned Corinthians as a whole in the last couple of weeks as well. Some more changes with the squad when you think of the likes of both Adam Killian and Danny Gerrard moving into the FC Isle of Man setup as well. So for Corinthians, mentally, do you think that'll be quite a good start for them? Not just looking at the scoreline, which is quite commanding in the end, but knowing that even with a couple of departures from the squad effectively, that they've still got that quality going forward.
Yeah, it's a huge statement, if you like, for them, because there's a lot of good young players who have come through in there. Yes, Adam Killian played today because he didn't play for FC Isle of Man, so he could play for Corinthians. But they've also lost Danny Gerrard, who played for FC Isle of Man today, so he's instrumental in that centre midfield. there's a couple of players there that are going to come out of that in the next couple of weeks, and that's Joe Middleton and also Aston Canson. They goes to university, but then you've got players who are also going to come in. Nathan Robinson played today, but he's gone on to pastures new, so we'll wait and see news from that one. But I think Ben Qualtro's done a great pre-season with them, give the players a massive lift, and when you've got sort of Adam Killier in goal, and then when you look at sort of the back four, certainly Stewie Smith who's in there, Darren Kane, it just helps Phil Kelly as well, keeps it nice and solid. And if you can score goals, and Josh Kane, he's a super player, and unfortunately he left St George's to come to Corinthians, and he could have sat there at Geordie's, but he decided he wanted to try something different. He's been sort of loyal to Geordie's, and today he showed what a player he is, and that's why he's in the Ireland squad. And
Rushden United as well, and pretty close game up until the point. I think the turning point seemed to be, looking on from the outside, was that red card for Ashley Blake around just before the hour mark. And for Rushden, obviously very early days, you can't draw too many conclusions from a first game, but what do you think happened there?
I don't really know. I'd love to see the team sheet, because I haven't sort of seen it at all. I know Furrow Davies played for FC Isle of Man. Mikey Williams probably played for FC Isle of Man. So I'm not too sure what went on, because I watched Rushden last year, and young players that were in there. I know that Ed Kavanagh, he's transferred, which is a shame for them. But I'll look at the team sheet. So Saturday nights, I love looking through who's been playing what and when. But that is a bit of a thumping at Rushden as well. And Ashley Blake has cost them dearly with that sending off. But, Corinthians, I just want to see how good these young players are, and they're not letting us down. Ben said, trust me, Mep, these young players are really good, and it showed today. And if they can sort of keep working on that one, and also, bring one or two other players back in. Dan Simpson's there. Dan's experience with them young players is going to be so invaluable. So they've just got to keep chipping away, and hopefully it goes their way.
Very well. Moving on then, we move out to the West Coast, and a lot of attention on Peel, of course, defending the Premier League title after they won the top flight silverware for the first time in 21 years at the end of the last campaign, and many eyes on how they would start this season at home to St George's in their opening game. And Tony Mepham, I know you made a little bit of a prediction, not too specific, over on Friday Sport last night, and that prediction has borne fruit here, and Peel getting things off to a very professional start against this St George's side, winning on home soil by 4-0.
Yeah, and thanks to Colin Moore, got a bit of a report on this game as well. And it was Peel 4, St George's 0, 2-0 at half-time. Lee Gale with 2 goals, one on 15 minutes and one on 45 plus 3 minutes, so injury time in that first half. The second one was a penalty. Taylor Andrews' close-range header made it 3 after 61 minutes. And then Thomas Brown, who's got pace to burn and skill, best move and finished off on that 68th minute. The game was decided just before half-time when Johnny Myers handled and Lee Gale dispatched the second goal from that penalty spot. St George's restricted to, mostly long-range efforts. Peel got more freedom going forward in the second half. But, St George's, again, they're just happy to get the team out. And today it was a sticky fixture for them against Peel. And Peel face Corinthians next week, so what a big game that's going to be.
Just very quickly, we've had another score through, and it comes in DPS Limited Division 2. It finished Douglas and District 2, Maloo 2. Just a message here to say there was a lengthy delay in the first half due to a Douglas and District player requiring treatment for an injury. So maybe that is why the game has taken a little bit longer. But we do have that result in now from DPS Limited Division 2, Douglas and District 2, Maloo 2. Thank you to the person who's just messaged in with those details. Just going quickly back to Peel versus St George's then. Peel, and looking at the teams that are gathering around them, looking to knock them off their perch effectively going into this season. We've had a lot of talk about Laxey, who we'll come to later on in their performance today. Ayr United with a few additions. They didn't have a game today, and you look at those two, you look at a couple of other these teams in behind, and do Peel have a job on their hands this year?
I think they do, and when sort of FC Isle of Man started, we sort of said that it's going to take a while for it to settle down, and then it may get closer. Now, Laxey this year have been the pick for many players who have gone. There's 4 or 5 first-team players. They're going to join them, and, that's okay. But you look at around it, and today, St Mary's, I did say at lunchtime, St Mary's are going to be a good outfit. They've done a good job today. Corinthians against Rushden. Surprised with the scoreline, but those two teams won't be far away, top 6 at the end of the season. But, sort of Peel, everyone wants to chase the champions. Everyone wants to beat them. And when you look at Tom Shimon, he didn't play for him today, but Luke Doty at the back, whether he's going to play or not, he's still around the club, and he might be persuaded. But there's a lot of good young players there, but 2 or 3 of them are going to go to university, so they're going to miss out on them. So Dan Bell and Mark Kelly both know that to retain this title is going to take some doing, especially with the strength of Laxey, Ayr and a couple of others shown today. But all they've got to do is keep working away, and today's been a good result for them.
And St George's, you alluded to it yesterday on Friday Sport. It's been a tough old summer for them to try and get a team together. They have done, which is excellent to see. Couldn't have drawn a much tougher, I think, opening fixture, especially when you go through as much change as they have again this summer as well. So with what they have right now, what can St George's maybe take from this?
Well, I think St George's has just got to keep chipping away because, it's been a real struggle for them. But credit to the club, Rob, because the committee's small. The players have been there and gone. And when you look at the starting lineup today, David Cherry in goal, he's a good goalkeeper, a great coach. Then you've got Julian Ringham, his trophy cabinet's absolutely busting at the seams. But Julian's coming up to 39, 40 years of age. You've got Sean Quay in there as well, who this time last year was playing FC Isle of Man. You've got real quality in there. Lewis Brideson's a super defender. George Kissick's a new kid on the block. Morgan Naylor played for FC Isle of Man last year. Sam Kane as well. James Kelly. Ash Higginbottom, FC Isle of Man. Johnny Myers is in there. Richard Wynn's always scored goals. So that was Geordie's team today. Whether they had any substitutes, I'm not too sure. But they'll hopefully get some more players in, build on it. Chris Bass is going to be maybe a month, 6 weeks before he plays because he's still got that knee injury. But all credit to them. Most clubs would have just ditched it and said, I'll take a season out like St Mary's did. But Geordies have got it together and hopefully get a few more players in, and it'll strengthen that team up.
OK, then we move over to Ballafletcher and Douglas Royal, who had a bit of a topsy-turvy time last season, just trying to keep themselves away from the relegation battle, which of course they did toward the end of the last campaign with some good results. They had a tricky fixture at home today at Ballafletcher against the newly promoted Braddon, who secured second place in Division 2 last season. Really close contest this, and again, the newly promoted side coming out on top in this one. Big result for Braddon. They beat Douglas Royal at Ballafletcher by 3-2. Yeah,
and it all goes down to sending off. It's cost them dearly, Douglas Royal. But they did score one of the goals when they were down to 10 because Max Shirley got the first one. I think it was a penalty. And he got his second one as well on, as I say, 93rd minute. But Douglas Royal played for half an hour with 10 players. Gavin Gorn got sent off straight red. So that's quite a serious thing.
So very similar to the situation that Russian found themselves in today against Corinthians as well.
Exactly. But for Braddon, we've always said that they've got good young players in there, and two good young names coming through here. And Callum Holdham, I'm not saying he's that old, but certainly Daniel Kinraid, he's come from great pedigree. His dad was a terrific player, and he's just like him, left-footed, all left foot going down. But the other one, I think it's his first senior goal in Div 2. I might be wrong on that one. I'm sure his dad will tell me. But Paul Healy's son, Thomas. Well done, Thomas. I know you've worked extra hard to make it in here. And here he is playing in the top flight of Manx football. I think he's 17 years of age. I think he's just passed his driving test as well, so he couldn't ask for any more. So Mum and Dad will be buzzing. I'm buzzing for him because I've watched him grow up. But well done to Braddon. That's a great win against Douglas Royal, 3-2.
And Braddon as well. I mean, I watched and reported on their game last season when they won promotion over against Ramsey Youth Centre over the Ballaclone Stadium. One thing that struck me personally was the brand of football that they try to play there as well. They've got young players who the coaches have known for quite a few years now as well, and built them up. And they try to play a nice brand of football, but on the flip side of that, because it is a youthful squad, do you think they might just find a few more challenges when they come up against, I suppose, bigger and more physical teams this season? Yeah, I think your last word there, physical, is going to be the problem for them because, they're a group of players that have been playing together for a long, long time. Like Daniel Kinraid, Thomas Healy, they've all come through, as I called it, a bit of a dream team, a Will Smith's dream team. He had this group from about 11, 12 years of age, and now they're all up to sort of 16, 17, and they've done really well. And the good thing about it is loyalty. They've all stayed together. And, Braddon is a great little club. They have, nice little tight little pitch, but, everyone works hard down there. Great committee. And today it shows
what hard work is all about. You put it in, then you'll get something out of it. Douglas Royal will be disappointed to drop points in that.
And Douglas Royal just coming on to them as well. 2 goals for Max Shirley. A move in the summer,
yeah,
I believe
from Laxey.
it was from Laxey.
Yep.
Yep. So a good start for him, personally. But for Douglas Royal, not ideal from their side of things.
No, it's not ideal. And when I look at the team, they've got Lewis Roberts, who's left them. He's gone. And when you look at sort of other players around them, whether they've been available today, I'm not too sure. But there's quite a few. There's 2 or 3 good young players, 16-year-olds who've signed for them. So that might just improve them. But I just thought at lunchtime they would win this. I really did. And it just shows you that, in this league at the moment, even at the bottom, there's going to be a right little battle going on, because you can see Royal, Braddon, you've got Moran down there, St George's, St John's, bit of pressure from them today, who are all going to be possibly involved at that bottom half of the table. So you need to try and get those points away from the teams around them. And that's what Braddon have done today.
Now, this next result, we haven't teed this up intentionally that it happens to be the last one on our sheets here in the Canada Life Events Premier League this weekend. It does just happen to be. But my word, what a statement. A lot of expectation and anticipation about what Laxey can do this season. It is only the opening weekend, but this is quite the statement to be sending out over the Memorial playing fields today up against Moran. Moran, tough job for them. They've lost a couple of their key players over the summer to different clubs, Laxey included. And Laxey absolutely relentless today. And one man, Tom Creer, the star of the show today as well. Moran beaten at home by Laxey by 7-0, Tony.
Yeah, Tom Creer with 4 goals says it all, doesn't it? And I was speaking to Dave Norton before, the 451 from newspaper. Great article, great, well done lads, all he is who are involved in it. To really give us a shape of where Manx football is this year. But Tom Creer was the one that's being tipped to win the Golden Boot, and you can see it. And the good thing about it, Rob, he's an absolute lovely lad. He just goes out there, does his stuff. He plays football. There's no hassles. He's a slight lad, but he doesn't bother. He rides the tackles, gets stuck in. And I'm pretty certain that, FC Isle of Man will be sort of bringing him back in as well, because, again, no goals today for FC Isle of Man. And Tom's good enough, and he's only, 17, 18. But 4 goals today. Congratulations to him. Jordan Cooper, you might not know him, but Jordan is a really good player. Scores plenty of goals, but, it's when it's going well for him, he's there. But when it sort of goes against him, he sort of, loses a little bit of interest. I know he was going to go travelling, but he's back. And when I saw his name on the team sheet today, I thought he's going to play and score goals. And he's done it today. He scored 2 and another own goal. So finished up Laxey 7, Moran 0.
Laxey, when you look at some of the players they had coming through last season, I know one of the young players that you picked out was the likes of Ethan Hawley as well, and how much he developed and became a really pivotal almost player in that front line at Laxey. But you look at the personnel they've added this year. You've got Tom Creer in there, Adam Meelan playing against his former club today as well, Ryan Gartland as well making his way in, and that is some serious firepower in this Laxey team.
Cameron Avery as well, but then it's been at a cost. You look at sort of players who have left Laxey now and gone to other clubs, Max Shirley being one of them. Max was brilliant, but the players have gone elsewhere, and it just opens up the doors for other clubs to sort of try and slot them in. But when you look at Brodie Patience is in there, he's an excellent player. Glenn Walker, the goalkeeper, a terrific goalkeeper. And Laxey have got a really good team. Johnny Palmer's got a good team there, but he knows that he's just got to sort of get those players all blended together, get playing, and the football's going to be good, and that's why people have tipped them to be the favourites.
And Moran as well, we've already spoken there about. They've lost a couple of key players over the summer. Cameron Avery to Laxey as well, Adam Meelan to Laxey, Nathan Tier up to Ayr United, who didn't play today. And last couple of seasons, Moran, it's been a challenge for them, but they've always found a way to keep themselves in the top flight. When the chips have been down, they've found themselves getting the points that they needed. And do you think it could be a similar campaign for them this year? You can't take too much from an opening game, but in your opinion, with the personnel they have currently, does it look like a similar trajectory going into this year?
That's a tough one, Rob. I was talking to you about this off air at lunchtime. When I look at it, Nathan Tier missed near enough a whole year 2 years ago when he broke his arm. When you look at horrific face injury that Cameron Avery had. I think he knocked two teeth out, and then also he had twins, and he's playing for FC Alaman. Adam Meelan as well was a big influence on FC Alaman. So but Moran didn't have those three players there for a lot of the games over the last couple of years, but now they haven't got them full stop. So where they could have picked up useful points here and there with maybe those three in the squad, they haven't got that now. So I just wonder where the rest is going to come from. Again, we'll look at the team sheets over the next couple of days and just see what is in there. But I think there's a bit of pressure on Malou, and I think David Brew knows that. And I think this is his
Moran, you mean?
Moran, sorry. This is his 15th year in charge at Moran. So, this is going to be a tough one for him. But he always seems to come up trumps, doesn't he? We laugh at it that they're going down, and then suddenly, bang, they pick up 6-9 points against top sides, and then they beat the sides around them, and they're safe. So the interesting, and everyone question now will be saying, well, how many points do you think we'll need? I know it's the first game of the season to survive. Well, over the last few years, it's been quite high. But this year, I think it could be a little bit lower. So all he can do again is, forget today's game. That's a beating. And go again next week and try and get the points.
Plenty more to come after
it's
the
massive.
opening day of the season.
What a great day to start, though, all this here.
Great to be back, isn't it?
27 minutes and we still haven't finished the Premier Sheet.
Well, let's move swiftly on, because otherwise we'll have some very dissatisfied followers of the Div 2 and Combi Leagues. Let's move into DPS Limited Division 2 then. We'll start with Douglas and District versus Malou, one of the latest scores to come through. 2-2 between those two sides, Tony.
Yeah, it was. I don't know if you've got any goal scorers there coming through, Rob, because you had the score, and thank you to Mark Thomas, who's the referee today. He's just come through. Thank you, Mark. D&D 2, Malou 2. Lengthy delay in the first half as a D&D player sustained a bad injury. So whoever that was, we wish him a speedy recovery, but we haven't got the scores. If you could text us through, please, 166 177.
Yes, please do send those details through if you have them. Okay, we'll move on then. We'll go out to Billygoat Park as well. Foxdale, they were hosting one of the promotion fighters last season. Michael United missed out just on the last game as well to Braddon in terms of that promotion, and they'll have been hoping to get themselves off to a positive start on this opening weekend of the season, but it hasn't proved to be the case for them, and a very good result for Foxdale, the host, on the opening day, beating Michael United by 3-1. Yeah,
and stand aside, Paul Hatton, because we've got a new reporter coming in here, because Alan Lemaire's put a report in here. Well done, Alan. Foxdale 3, Kurt Michael 1. Michael 1-0 up after 10 minutes. Charlie Harrison levelled it at 15 minutes before half-time. But then, on the stroke of half-time, Jay Charmer made it 2-1, and that was half-time score. But then 7 minutes into the second half, Charlie Harrison, red card. So they were down 2-10. But then Ricky Newsham penalty, 20 minutes from the end, clinched the 3 points for Foxdale. Foxdale 3, Kurt Michael 1. Cracking result.
With Michael United, do we know if there have been any changes in personnel over the summer? Because I'm sure there'll have been. I think we spoke about it, didn't we, that Michael United last season were one of the real surprise packages of last season in terms of not just starting well, but how consistent they were over the season. So it is the opening day, and we'll keep saying it. You take certain results with a pinch of salt because there's a whole season to come yet. But a setback there, but as far as you're aware, Tony, is there largely the same personnel that challenged for promotion last season?
I think they're probably better. I don't know if Liam Kane played today, but he scored most of their goals last year. I think Dominic Parrish has scored for them as well. He's signed for them, so he's a really good player. So I don't know what's gone on today, because Foxdale are one of those sides that keep chipping away. They've always been strong. But Anthony Corkle, I think this year, expected it to be a tough season for them to sort of keep in that top 4, top 6 sort of space there in Div 2. But certainly today against Michael, it's at Foxdale as well. That's a brilliant result. And Charlie Harrison, really good player. His dad was a cracking player, Terry. But Jason Charmer, again, is starting off like where he was last year. I think he scored over half of Foxdale's goals, and today he got another one. And luckily they got away with it when Charlie got sent off in the second half, but that's a straight red, possibly. He could be missing for 2 or 3 games, so that'd be a big loss.
Okay, moving on. Ramsey Youth Centre All Boys versus Colby, and Colby coming out on top just about by 2-1.
Yep, I haven't got any goal scorers, Rob, if you've got anything.
The goal scorers for Colby I do have, and they were Paul Whitley and David Caldwell.
David Caldwell, well, there's a blast from the past because he used to manage them, I think, and he's come back in. And Paul Whitley as well, his first official game since transferring from Onken to Colby, getting his name on the score sheet. So that's a good result for Colby. And Colby's team are buzzing. Aaron Collister there has done a really good job in getting everyone together at the club. There's players who've come back in, made them stronger. Jordan Edge is not playing at the moment. He's still suspended. So when he comes back in, he's their main line. And I noticed Jordan Primrose Smith had signed back on from. He's a good goal scorer. So, Colby will be really chuffed with that result today against an awkward fixture. It always is against Ramsey Youth Centre. And it's a good start with them.
Next up, arguably, were the pick of the ties from Division 2 on the opening weekend. Douglas High School All Boys relegated from the top flight last season up against one of the promotion chasers in Division 2 from the last campaign, Castletown. And a thrilling game, 6 goals here, but a statement made by the visitors, Douglas High School All Boys 2, Castletown 4.
Definitely, and apologies if I get this scoring in the wrong order, but I believe it was Castletown who took the lead. Alex Crawley, 25-yard screamer. So I don't know how many goals he scored now for Castletown, but it's into the hundreds. He's done really well. Danny Lane, he got a couple of goals, and that's a good partnership there. And Rob Tier, that's Mark Tier's son, scoring a goal as well. So I think one of their goals was scored late on in injury time in the second half. Don't know who scored for Old Boys. They got 2 goals. So if you could text us through, please, 166 177.
Very well, and then the other one as well involving another relegated side, Onken. They travelled to Pulrose today. Onken, relegated from the top flight last season, also trying to get off to a good start, and they certainly have done today, and they've been bagging the goals as well against a dogged Pulrose side today. Pulrose 2, Onken 8.
Yeah, and Pulrose took the lead. I think it was JP Joyce who got the goal, but then Onken, once they sort of found their feet, they started to play really well, and Adam McCulloch, who I know him from playing for Corinthians, good goal scorer. He got 4 today. Well done, Adam. Your new club. Tom O'Neill, who used to play for Corinthians, he got 2 goals, and Connor Dawson got a couple of goals as well. But Pulrose, evidently excellent in the first half. He did everything that could be asked of him, but the second half, maybe fitness and a little bit of change of plan by Onken sorted that out. And a special mention for the referee, Neshko Maranov. Super game by him. Onken 8, Pulrose 2.
Very well. That's the Premier League in Division 2. I'm conscious of the time at the moment, approaching 25 to 6. How time flies, Tony. Let's quickly take a look through the combination leagues. We'll start with Canada Life Combination 1, Ramsey 2, Union Mills 4.
Yeah, and some strange scorers here, weren't there? Union Mills, it was Luke Booth with 1, Carl Uren with 3, normally first-team players. But for Ramsey, Alfie Scott, good young player coming through the system, and Henry Corkle, was it, who got the... Harry Corkle, who got the other one.
Harry Corkish.
Corkish, sorry. It was Union Mills 4, Ramsey 2.
And then in the game between St Mary's and St John's in the Combi Leagues, kick-off slightly earlier at 2 o'clock, St Mary's 2, St John's 1.
Yeah, 1:45 it is, so take note, everyone. 1:45 kick-off for any of the St Mary's games that are played at the Bowl, just to give FC Alaman a bit more time. But Joe Canepa got 1, Will Burkhurst got the second one for St Mary's. I haven't got St John's goal scorer.
And elsewhere, it finished Corinthians 0, Russian United 2.
Yeah, good performance by the champions, Russian. Went all season last year, didn't he? Undefeated. And
won all 22 league games last season. It's not bad, astonishing.
But today, 2 good players in here. Chris Shimon, he scored on the 63rd minute to give them a 1-0 lead. And Luke Roberts got the second one 2 minutes before full time. Thanks to Jack Gale keeping us posted throughout the afternoon how the game was going. Russian 2, Corinthians 0.
Well, Braddon also got the better of Douglas Royal in the Combi Leagues as well today. Braddon 4, Douglas Royal 0.
Yeah, I haven't got any goal scorers on that one, Rob, if you've got anything.
I do indeed. 2 for Connor Dempsey, and then 1 each for Liam Patton and Will Tier.
Right, and just got, thanks Mike Call-up from Michael has just come through. The goal for Michael was Dom Smith. Green struggle against a physical Foxtail side. A few decisions could have gone either way. Decisions for both sides, though. Michael couldn't get the game going at all. I'm sure Michael and the troops will get that sorted.
And Laxey versus Moran, we already mentioned with the first teams. Laxey, an emphatic 7-0 victory away at Moran, and an even more emphatic win for the Combi side against Moran. Laxey 9, Moran 0.
Any goal scorers, Rob?
Not to my knowledge at the moment. So if we do, one of those details, what's the number, Tony?
166 177.
Beautifully done.
Thank you.
Beautifully done. And last but certainly not least, let's move to DPS Limited
Yep.
Combination 2. We've just had another result in the last couple of minutes. Thank you very much indeed. Maloo 2, Douglas and District 4.
Any goal scorers?
I'm afraid not in front of me,
And I
but we
haven't
do
got
have the
them
score. That's the most
That's the main
important
thing,
part. Michael United, although their first team couldn't get the job done away at Foxdale, their combination team getting the job done against Foxdale at home. Michael 9, Foxdale 0.
And I haven't got any goal scorers. Mike, I know you're listening because you just sent me a text. Can you text me through the combination goal scorers, please? Michael against Foxdale.
This is football reporting in action, isn't it? This is what we want. And, wow, 9 goals in this next one. Colby 3, Ramsey Youth Centre and Old Boys 6.
Any goal scorers?
I do indeed, actually.
Good
So I'll read them out for you. Thanks very much for getting them into us earlier. So the 3 goals for Colby, it was Finn Mulligan who got 2 and a Jack-on lad with a penalty. Also got a note here, and I'm very sorry because my writing was terrible from noting this down. But the goalkeeper for Colby was injured and one of the outfield players went in. Eden Woodgate, right. I believe the name is, looking at my notes. Apologies if I've got that wrong there. But played the majority of the time in goal as well for Colby. And from what I'm heard and what I'm told, did an excellent job in there as well, standing in for the injured goalkeeper. For Ramsey Youth Centre, the goals were for Ben Harding and Ryan Quigley, and Adrian Skrabucha, 1 each,
yep.
And then a hat-trick for Ross Crawford.
Well done. And lots of goals, wasn't there? What a great day.
Absolutely, yeah. In this sunshine, that's all you need. And the other result that came through to us, Douglas Athletic 7, Gyms 1.
And I haven't got any goal scorers on that one. You?
Neither have I at this stage.
And what about the Castown and Old Boys? Are you going to let us down?
Well, I've got to say, this is one of the results we were awaiting. We still haven't got confirmation of that, so I haven't got the scoreline in front of me unless you could tell me otherwise.
Let me have a look. Here you go. Yeah, power of radio. Michael 9, Foxdale 0. Tom Burnett got 3 goals for Michael. Chris Padden got 2. Nathan Farragher with a couple of goals. Corey Collister as well. Dom Parrish, who, there we go, playing in the combination today. Dom decided to play combi instead of first team this morning just to, whatever reason. And let's have a little look to see if we can find out from the combination score. No, we haven't got the combination score there for
I need a
Castletown
drum roll
and
to
Old
go
Boys.
into the background of this.
Yeah, it's a shame really because, it's nice to get all the scores in, scorers, and, just text me through, with the scorers, and we'll make sure that it gets put on air. But, it's very difficult. People sort of send a text to Paul. Paul's doing a programme, Paul Moran, and it's impossible for him to collate it all together. So, the literature went out from the FA this week just to say where the scores go and everything. So if you can get that one sorted, it gives everyone the chance to find out exactly all the scores during the day and the afternoon.
Absolutely, because we enjoy talking about them. We enjoy talking about them each weekend, so it's always great to have the details. So if there are any details missing, but please, by all means, even if it's just a scoreline to start with, before more details can be managed, please do send them in 166
Definitely
177. And lastly, on the football side of things, in action off Ireland again this weekend were FC Isle of Man in the North West Counties Football League Premier Division, and today saw them grind out a goalless draw at an in-form Wythenshawe Town at Ericstown Park. And whilst it was a closely fought game, not too much in the way of clear-cut chances between the two sides, FC Isle of Man had been hoping to get back to winning ways after a surprise defeat on Monday, whereas Wythenshawe Town had won 4 of their last 5. In those 4 games, they kept clean sheets as well. But it's a clean sheet for both sides and a point each over at Ericstown Park between the two sides. And at full time, I caught up with FC Isle of Man coach Gareth Lloyd. He's standing in for manager Paul Jones and assistant manager Alex Harrison, who are both on leave at the moment. I caught up with him to get his thoughts on his team's performance at full time.
We were solid without the ball. We were solid. From last time, they changed the shape of how they played us last time, so we had to adapt, even though we prepped for a certain way they played against us last time, and they changed. So how we get the ball back in our press, we had to adapt. So when we come on the field, but the lads managed it. There was chaotic moments in the first half where we were getting used to it. And these are a good team who we've come and played after us getting the result the first game of the season. I think they've only gone on to lose 1 or 2, and I think one of them was over the bank holiday weekend as well, where there were probably a few lads retired. So they're a good team, and we've managed to come away with a point. And it's part of our process of learning what we have to try and be satisfied with coming to away games and getting a point. I was said in my interview earlier that 12 months ago, what we'd play a game like this and a team would probably nick it 1-0, or we wouldn't keep our concentration for the whole 95, 100 minutes or whatever we were playing. And the lads have done that today. Again, Was our keeper troubled? Not really. I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but we were troubled. But certainly in the first half, once we'd been comfortable with how they were playing and what we would do without the ball, we created one or two chances. What you would have said they're the better chances in the game today. But we can't be disappointed. It's part of learning away from home and being able to take points on the road when we're away, like I said before. So, yeah, we've just got to take it and then move on to the next one.
Putting aside the defeat on Monday, the clinical nature that FC Isle of Man has shown in the last couple of weeks to manage to get 3 points, and it's a point here today, but do you think this showed another side to this FC Isle of Man squad, that they were resilient defensively and were able to keep a clean sheet in getting the draw?
Yeah, definitely, because that was something what I know we went through a period at Christmas last year when we went on that run of losing games where we were probably conceding too many goals. And that's been part of the focus during pre-season and then going into the season, where we have to be comfortable when we don't have the ball. Some of the players, when they play in the Isle of Man, they're used to having a lot of attacking football and having the ball constantly. But the other side of the game, especially coming away with the level of some of the teams what we play, we have to be comfortable, and you do have to be make sure you're in the right positions, comfortable being close to men or defending space. So again, I think we've done that, and we're just learning from each game. I know they've come thick and fast from having 7 last month to 8 this month, and that's the first one of 8 I think we've got in September. But yeah, hopefully, I know people can say this and that and about when we were on the ball, and we're probably a little bit more calmness on the ball, and I think we come away from here nicking the win rather than just being comfortable with the 0-0. But we've got to be happy with that.
And just finally, it's going to be a quick turnaround again next week, because it's a midweek tie away at Pilkington as well. So what are the sort of main things you're going to take from this one to maybe try and improve the results going into Wednesday?
So again, we'll just build on what we've been doing, just making sure we're comfortable without the ball, but then just having that little bit of calmness in the final third, which we have had over the past couple of games, and we have had them moments like you alluded to before when we have managed to nick a goal or dominate when we went away to Glossop and stuff like that. So yeah, it's just making sure our consistency in calmness in the final third is something what we've got start trying to develop and become more clinical on. But the lads, again, they've been fantastic. Paul being away, Al being away today, I can't ask any more of them, and they're just an absolute credit to themselves and the fans who come over.
It's Gareth Lloyd there, FC Isle of Man first team coach after FC Isle of Man earned a goalless draw at Wythenshawe Town in the NWCFL Premier Division today. So, Tony, we'll just bring you back in on this particular subject very briefly. FC Isle of Man, they suffered a surprise defeat on Monday after a hard-fought win on the Saturday before that, 2 games in 3 days, and going into this game against Wythenshawe, a different prospect than the team that they beat on the opening day. The players at Wythenshawe have clearly gelled. They've had some good results. So, from your perspective, from FC Isle of Man, who've had a pretty positive start to this season at the moment, would you consider that a point gained or 2 dropped?
It's hard to say, because the first game of the season I thought Wythenshawe were really poor, and I know FC Isle of Man beat them, I think 2-0 was it in the end. So, and I just thought that wasn't the Wythenshawe teams that we saw last year. But then when you take on board the changes, you get it. But now they seem to have sort of gelled very quickly. And as you rightly said, I think, undefeated for quite a while. So it looked how good they were. And then today it's hard going. But, it was a real sort of kick, wasn't it, last week on the Monday night game, or the Monday day game, when they conceded those 2 goals right at the end, which just dampened them. But whatever position they are now, 6th or 7th, taking on board today's results, it's a really good start for them. They've looked good, and I'm pretty certain with Gaz and also Alex and Paul and the coaching staff, June Watney and everything, once they get things sorted out, our players are good players, and it's just getting them to sort of, again, learn. It's all new to them, innit? This is only their 3rd season. And, they're in a better position they are than last season, because last season was a bit of pressure on them to deal with it. But they got it right towards the end of last season, and to be in the position they are at the moment, and competing with clubs like Bury, Kendal and everything, they're doing well.
I mean, putting aside that result on the Monday, if you look at the last 6 games, yes, there's that 1 loss, but that's 4 wins and a draw in there as well, and against teams that they will be expected to be, some of them at least, expected to be competing in and around to a certain extent. It's very difficult to say who they should be competing around because it's so early in the season. There's 46 games to be played in total. But when you compare it, as you've already pointed out, to the Wythenshawe Town teams they came up against last season, particularly the away game, where those at FC Isle of Man said it was a real backs-to-the-wall job to earn a point there. Maybe a slightly different story today. Do you think that shows a bit more growth in this FC Isle of Man setup, that they're able to go to a town, to a club like Wythenshawe Town, that Gareth Lloyd has rightly said has a great pedigree over the years, go toe-to-toe with them and come out even Stevens this time?
Yeah, I heard Gaz's interview, the first one, where he's just saying they knew it was going to be a tough game. And, they've just got to be sort of patient, see how it goes. 0-0, it's a point that they've taken on. They haven't lost. And then they move on to their next game at home on Saturday. But it's all sort of one of those things. The teams seem to vary, Rob. You look at them, and then when you look at the team the following week, it's totally different. So what sort of squads they're picking from, or player availability, I'm not too sure. But let's take the highlights out of it. Dean Pinnington has been absolutely superb since he come in, and I can't remember what age Dean is now, 18, 19, and 2-3 free kicks there, that are absolute worldie jobs, and that's what you've got to do, is just play the game as your players feel comfortable with it. Steve Whitley's a big loss on that right hand side, but Dean's come in, and it's looked really well, but it's going to be a problem shortly when you look at sort of one or two players who are coming back. Luke Murray from injury, Dan Simpson from injury. Sean Doyle's getting stronger and stronger as they go. Furu Davies has come back in just to sort of help things. And defensively, we've looked very, very solid. Goalkeeper-wise, we keep chopping and changing. That's up to them to sort that out. But no, it's a good start, and 10 out of 10.
Well, FC Alabama back in action in the NWCFL Premier Division this coming Wednesday, the 6th of September. That is away at Pilkington, 7:45pm kickoff. Well, Tony, lastly, and I'm just actually going to get a couple more details in here from the games that have come through. Thank you very much for sending these in. It regards the Laxey versus Moran fixture in the combination leagues. Laxey 9-0 winners, and the goals have come 4 for Jack Keelan, 2 for Mike Fernandez, 1 from Caleb Christian, and also 1 each for Cameron Nelson and Greg Kelly. And we've also had a final score. No details of scorers yet, but thank you for letting us know. In combination 2, it finished Castletown 1, Douglas High School Old Boys 7. So, Tony, we've chatted for a long time already on this programme, so I'll just ask you one more thing before we let you go. One thing that the FA met with clubs about toward the end of the Manx Grand Prix, effectively around that time, was these ideas. They're not formal proposals yet, but suggestions with the clubs. Let them have a look at it about potentially changing the structure of the leagues from 24-25. So what can you tell us about the latest meeting that happened on the 29th of August?
Yeah, it was a good meeting, to be fair. I chaired the meeting, so I wanted every club to talk about it, to make sure they discussed it with the clubs. They all had, and they all feel that it's got to be investigated, looked at. So now it's being passed on to league management, who will have a look at it and then, come up with ideas to bring in. I think we need to bring some people in who it may affect more. Mid-table Division 2 sides, Combination 1 sides. How do they feel about coming out from Combi 1 and possibly winning Division 2, but then can't go any further? We need to get their thoughts. But yeah, basically all the clubs but 2 are behind it. And we'll sit down, speak to, or speak as a committee and see what we think. We'll come back with, the views from the League Management Committee. And then if it's going to be a proper proposal put forward, and it can be put forward by a club, it can be put forward by the Rules Revision Committee, then that would be discussed at Rules Revision, which is sort of April time next season. So there's plenty of time to sort of find out what we're going to do. But if it's going to increase participation, Rob, then, it's certainly got to be considered. Will it work? We don't know. But people feel at the moment that it certainly has to be looked at, and that's what's going to happen.
Perfect timing as it clicks over to 50 minutes this programme has been running and we've been talking. It's good to be back, isn't it?
It is good to be back, Rob. And, I was buzzing. I was going to send you a text last night to say you're set for tomorrow. I'm buzzing about it because I said it at council and I'll say it again now. I think there's a little bit of buzz in Manx football at the moment. There's a lot of good young players coming through who maybe walked away from the game between 16 and 18. And I think now they're seeing the opportunity where they can come in and play at the top standard in the Premier League, because there's that many spaces now with players being taken away from it that them players are coming in. And, I'm just thinking one, I mentioned him before, Thomas Healy, 16, 17 years of age, good little player. here he is playing against the big boys in the Premier League in Manx football. It's got to be something.
Well, Tony, an absolute pleasure to have you back. Thank you very much, and we'll be catching up with you again very, very soon. Well, rugby fans, you've waited very patiently for your update on the rugby today. Both Douglas and Vagabonds getting their respective campaigns underway today. Douglas in the league in Northwest 2, whilst Vagabonds in cup competition off Ireland in the Cheshire Bowl. And just like you sat at home, Dave Christian, our rugby correspondent, has been waiting very patiently. Dave Christian, very good evening. We'll start very quickly in the Northwest 2. And Douglas and Furwood Waterloo. Not a high-scoring game. Furwood Waterloo just coming out on top today by 8-6. We seem to have potentially lost Dave Christian at the other end just at the moment. We'll try him again shortly. So just very quickly, we'll take you through, if you missed the classified results before, we'll look to grab Dave Christian in just a moment's time. So the classified results from the rugby, if you missed them earlier, in the Northwest 2, it finished Douglas 6, Furwood Waterloo 8, and in the Cheshire Bowl, Duckenfield 45, Vagabonds 0. Well, hopefully we can now grab him at the other end of the island at the moment. Dave Christian, are you there?
Kicked a penalty for Waterloo to give his side an...
Oh, just don't quite seem to have the connection to Dave Christian, unfortunately. Dave, if you can hear us at the other end, we may look to catch up with you in just a couple of minutes' time.
Manx Radio Sport.
Well, as we look to get hold of Dave Christian in the next couple of minutes, before we do so, we'll just quickly turn to the world of motorsport, and the world of motorcycle racing in particular was stunned yesterday at the very sad news that Paul Bird, the team owner of Paul Bird Motorsport, died suddenly on Friday after a short-term illness. The 56-year-old Cumbrian businessman and motorsport team owner had many links with the Isle of Man TT, having run riders such as John McGuinness. Until recently, he also held the joint record for the most Manx National Rally wins, achieving 3 wins as a driver. Well, fellow former TT boss Jack Valentine gave this reaction following the news of Paul's death.
I mean, he was, I get a bit emotional. He was a proper northerner. He just loved motorsport, loved every bit of it, and he put his money where his mouth was. I mean, there's a lot of people out there, who think they can do it. They're wannabes, basically. And I mean, even myself, I was involved with one particular team, and the team owner said, "Oh, I could easily anything I could do. I could easily burn Birdie down." And I thought, no, not a chance, mate. Because Birdie, he loved what he was doing, put his money where his mouth was, and just did the business. One very touching thing was, it's going years ago. I think it was back in the late 90s. We were up at Croft testing when I was running the Honda team, and Birdie turned up, and he had a 250, and he said, "Oh, is it okay if I show you garage?" I said, "Yeah, absolutely, no problem, mate." A bit later in the day, he said, "If you just look under your van," he said, "I've just had some chicken and stuff dropped off for you." And I thought, wow, what a gesture! A nice thank you. I mean, it was just that's how he was. Was a proper bloke. Not really was.
Not many people.
Yeah.
Not many people realise, Jack, that actually, apart from a team owner, he was actually a talented footballer and motocross rider in his youth.
Incredible, and a male model, I believe. Yeah, I mean, he was a proper sportsman, and it's so sad that it's ended this way. I mean, he had a bad year last year. He was struggling last year, but he still came back. He came back. He got the best equipment, got the best riders, best crew. And, it's not easy. It's not easy in this game. I mean, I've been in it a long time, and I know how hard it is. But Birdie, he will be missed 100%.
And he had an association with the Isle of Man TT as well, didn't he? Running John McGuinness, first of all.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, when I was running the Triumph team, I spoke with Paul then, and I was after getting John to drive the 600. And yeah, no problem. I think John was on the Ducati that year, and Paul let him ride the 600 for me. And yeah, he's just a genuine guy. You know what I mean? He just loved motorsport, put his money where his mouth was. Where a lot of the others are just they just wear the t-shirt, put the sunglasses on and all that sort of shit. But he wasn't. He knew what he wanted, did the job right. Proper bloke.
That's former TT boss Jack Valentine with a tribute to Mr. Paul Bird, the team owner of Paul Bird Motorsports, who sadly passed away yesterday at the age of 56. Well, finally tonight, as we approach 6 o'clock, after we had just maybe a couple of technical glitches a couple of moments ago, we've hopefully got them sorted now, and hopefully we can now cross over to Dave Christian to report on the day's rugby action for Douglas and Vagabonds. So here we go. Dave Christian, are you there? Good evening.
Good evening, Rob. James Ratliff kicked a penalty for Waterloo to give his side an early lead at Portachee in their 8-6 win against Douglas. Jack Shimon levelled for Douglas a few minutes later as they started to apply pressure. Just after the first water break of the game, though, Waterloo went in front when prop Kurt Riley was driven over from a 5-metre line-out. Jack Shimon nailed his second penalty, though, in stoppage time at the end of the first half, and the team turned round with Waterloo clinging to a slender 8-6 lead. Try as they might, though, Douglas couldn't break them down in the second half. Waterloo looked a little bit sharper after the break and had a long spell camped on the Douglas line. That, however, came to naught, and the closest scoring chances in the second half were missed penalties at each end. Douglas picked up a losing bonus point, but that'll be little consolation for them from a game where they could and probably should have won. In the Cheshire Bowl, it was different kettle of fish for Vagabonds. They lost their first tie 45-0 away at Duckenfield. The Manchester side raced into a 19-0 lead after 20 minutes, and Vagabonds never really recovered. They dug in defensively, though, and it was almost an hour on the clock before Duckenfield could score again. But at that stage, they hit a purple patch and pushed the lead out to 45-0 before a final scoreless 10 minutes. Douglas away at Kirby Lonsdale next week. Vagabonds get a week off to have a little bit of a head scratch and think what they're going to try and do when their league gets going later this month.
Okay, Dave, and just very quickly, we've got around 60 seconds to go here, but in terms of Douglas's start up against a good forward Waterloo side, not too much in it, so what do they, and what do Vagabonds as well in their respective competition, the Cheshire Bowl, take from this opening weekend?
Well, Douglas looked, to be honest, they looked a little bit rusty. They had a number of opportunities that they could have scored. A wrong decision was taken on the field. And I think John Dutnell throwing in at the line-out, he had 3 not straights, and 2 of those were in the last couple of minutes when Douglas were looking for attacking line-out. So a little bit of throwing practice for the line-out, a little bit more line-out work. Other than that, they weren't that bad. It shouldn't be too much of a problem for them. Vagabonds, it's kind of difficult to comment on, but a 45-0 defeat is a pretty good defeat. Duckenfield are, however, in a league higher than them, so perhaps the defeat was going to be expected. They're going to have to work a little bit harder, but the games won't be as tough as Duckenfield when their league finally gets going in a few weeks' time.
Well, Dave Christian there, and Dave, thank you so much for waiting so patiently and getting around a few of the technical gremlins to give us the start of the season for Douglas and Vagabonds. Dave Christian, thank you very much indeed. We'll be catching up with you very soon. Well, that's all we have time for on Saturday Sport Classified, the first Saturday Sport Classified of the season this week. We'll now be handing back over to Christy de Haven over on the Saturday Live Lounge on our FM frequency. Thank you so much for joining us on this opening weekend. We can't wait to welcome you back again next Saturday as well. At the same time, 5 p.m. on Manx Radio, crystal clear DAB and AM 1368. In the meantime, have yourself a wonderful Saturday evening and a wonderful rest of your weekend. So from me, until next time, it is bye for now.
Manx Radio Sport.